like we're going to be playing the Seattle Mariners in the ALDS. How about them apples? We are all worried about the Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays fell silent against the Mariners. Now we're going to see Seattle come to Houston, and we'll talk about this and more on the special edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive. Bring on the Mariners. Always Stros.
Alrighty, we were trying to start at 8 o'clock, but we're having some discrepancy between the Astros record versus the Mariners. So what we can somewhat understand is the Astros have a winning record at home versus the Mariners, and they are 4-5 on the road versus the Mariners. But there's a little bit of discrepancy between the different websites. So definitely the Astros have a 12-7 record overall versus the Mariners this season. And this is definitely the first time that the Mariners have been to the playoffs since, 2001 or something?
21 years ago, they made the playoffs. And it was on this day that Edgar Martinez hit that ball into left field, and Ken Griffey Jr. scored, and they won. And it would be fitting that, it's funny, in your intro, you said the Blue Jays went silent. I think they went silent that first game, but this game, thought today they woke up.
Well, they didn't win a single game. That's what I mean. But yeah.
Right. Exactly. But Teoscar Hernandez, 2 home runs today, something we got to talk about. And we'll talk about it a little bit with the Mariners guys to get the juices flowing. Is Scott Service has 2 playoff games under his belt, and he also has 3 hit batters now, or is it 2? I just know that he loves his pitchers hitting batters and then smirking as he walks off the mound. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe he has gas. Maybe he had a bad lunch and he's trying to cover up, his flagellants on the mound. But I think it has to do with more the stinky way that he manages a team. I don't like Scott Service. I'm not a big fan of his, and he better not throw at Jordan. He better not throw at Altuve or any of these guys, because I promise you someone's going to catch one up high if they do that, because the Astros aren't going to put up with it.
Yeah, and if you look at from the Mariner side, they're going to say, well, they hit Julio Rodriguez twice in Game 1, and then maybe they felt disrespected in Game 2. And if you look at the Mariner side, the hit by pitches kind of rallied the troops, and they kind of went from there and had one of the biggest comeback, if not the biggest comebacks in postseason history. And that was like such a crazy game to watch. I mean, Springer, our old guy Springer, got hurt in that play, and that was such he was going for a ball, and I think he got hit in the face by the elbow of one of the infielders going out for
Bo Bichette, yeah.
Bo Bichette as well, and he did not look good. He had to get they had to get carted off the field. He looked like he was concussed a little bit, but yeah, that was a epic game. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're not doing podcast tonight. We're going to have to go to Game 3 in this series. But yeah, the Blue Jays look good for the first 5 innings. Kevin Gossman was keeping the Mariners off of the bases, and I know that he allowed that 1 run, but then everything kind of fell apart. But the Blue Jays, they showed you what they did offensively, but they just didn't have the bullpen that the Mariners did, and we talked about that in the show the day before. And unfortunately, that's what happened there. So I still don't know which team I rather have faced, but the Mariners are going to be riding this big high after beating the Blue Jays. It was a Cinderella story, upset, whatever you want to call it, but this is definitely going to be a good matchup. So now Justin Verlander is going to be on the mound for Game 1, and with the days off, you can have him actually start game 4 as well. I know Matt Thomas talked about that as well. But some of the talk across baseball right now is, would the Mariners start Luis Castillo on short rest in game 1 as well?
I really doubt it. Why would you start him on short rest and possibly waste him against Verlander when you can go Logan Gilbert? I believe Logan Gilbert, and I agree with some of the beat writers and different people that are talking about this series, that I think Logan Gilbert goes game 1. There's no need to put Luis Castillo in that position. You go Logan Gilbert game 1, Luis Castillo game 2, because you're going to have Justin Verlander in game 1, more than likely Framber Valdez in game 2. And I think that's a great matchup. And my question is, though, Eric, now that we're playing in Seattle, and we can examine this when we do our crossover with the Mariners host, but I want to know who's had more success or more trouble in Seattle. And I wonder if that's going to determine who pitches in game 2, because to me, that would be the most important factor. If you feel like Framber Valdez is more effective on the road in Seattle, if he has been, then I think you could easily bring in McCullers in game 2 and then pitch Framber Valdez in game 3, which I think would be a very strong thing to do. But right now, everything's up in the air. But Seattle winning 2 games, I didn't see that. Now, I didn't think that Seattle would lose, but I also thought that, I don't know. I guess I'm shocked the way that they won, because I was like, they got this wrapped up. Like, the Blue Jays are going to game 3, 8-1. Gossman walks off the mound. Phenomenal job. Simber, who has only walked like 13 batters in 74 plus innings this year, walked his first batter. They actually intentionally walked a guy, then he walked a guy. And it was just like nothing was going right. But, Eric, in this wild card series, this is proof that when you come to the playoffs, and there were comments from different players throughout the weekend. Lance McCullers said right here, he said about facing the Mariners. He said the Mariners are a great team, and we know that we have to go out and do our best. It's going to be a true battle of the West that's ahead. It's going to be an exciting series. I love when Bregman was asked, who would you rather face, Seattle or Toronto? He said, both teams are good. Like, it doesn't matter who we face. It's the playoffs, and they're going to give you their best. That series today up in Cleveland, Eric, 15 innings, the walk-off home run against Corey Kluber, one of the most celebrated pitchers in recent history for the Cleveland franchise, and a rookie hits a home run and wins a game. And that series was weird. There was only 4 runs total scored in those 2 games, but the dark horse moves on. And the Yankees better watch out, because Cleveland's got some magic in them. And Tristan McKenzie, they call him Sticks. The dude can throw, man. And they didn't even have to go to their Cal Quantrill, who's probably going to pitch game 1 in that series. But some exciting baseball, Eric. The Mets are actually up as we talk right now. The Padres took game 1. The Philadelphia Cardinals series, you don't know what's going to happen there. What's going to happen with the Braves, with the Dodgers when those teams move on. But what an exciting time to be an Astros baseball fan, because like Lance McCullers said, I don't think we've ever gone into a playoff series with the number 1 pitching staff, but we still have to show up. We still have to play the game.
All right. So if you're looking at his overall stats over his career, Framber Valdez is 20-9 with a 3.49 ERA at home, and away he's 21-14 with a 3.29 ERA.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, though, I'm just talking specific to Seattle, not necessarily overall road. I'm just wondering, will they think that much of it? I still think Valdez goes game 2, but I'm wondering if that's a part of the conversation. Like, has he had success in Seattle or has he not? Because I don't remember every single game that they've been up there. Well, and Eric, let me ask you this. Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead, and then I'll ask you a question.
So a reason to use him in game 2 is that in his career, he's 5-0 with a 1.94 ERA. In 51 innings pitched, he has 53 strikeouts with a 1.039 whip. So he has pitched very well against the Mariners in 9 starts in his career.
Okay. No, yeah,
Verlander game 1, then Framber Valdez. Then if you need it, Verlander game 4, Framber Valdez game 5 if you need it.
right. So you think there's a possibility that they don't even use Christian Javier as a fourth starter?
I would rather them honestly save Verlander, but it depends on where they are. If the Astros are down down in the series, then yeah, they're going to go to Verlander. If they think they
Okay.
can maybe squeak one out with Christian Javier, then yeah,
Well,
there's some discussion about, well, maybe you have Christian Javier slide ahead of Lance McCullers, but I think that was squashed today by Dusty Baker. He had some good comments. I actually closed my thing, but he basically said that after Lance McCullers left last season, that was a big blow to the team, and he means so much to the Astros, not just pitching, but just everything. So him being back pitching for the Astros is a big deal. So um, I think he this is what he said. Last year we didn't have Lance. You give us Lance, we might have a different team, might have been world champs. When Lance went down that day and said he couldn't go anymore, my heart sank. So basically, he was just saying that the season changed, the postseason changed when McCullers went down. Now Verlander here, that's a whole ball game changer, because that's your game 1 starter and game 4 starter or whatever. But at the
right.
same time, I would love to save Verlander for the next series. But like I said, it depends on where they are in the series.
This is funny. I want to mention this Javier Hunter combo. Now, I want to kind of look into the future, okay? With Hunter Brown, he's a rookie. They're going to put him in spots where they think he can succeed, where he's going to be effective. But with the guys on this rotation, like Christian Javier, like Hunter Brown, can you imagine going into a playoff game when you got Hunter Brown after a year or two under his belt? That's why I say this championship window, Eric, I still think has another 5 years in it, because you've got so many players that are right there on the cusp. I mean, we don't know what David Hensley's going to do next year. David Hensley could come on the scene and be that guy that nobody talked about because he's got all the tools. Someone asked me when they're going to, or asked us, when are they going to announce the roster or the rotation? I don't think they have to announce it till Monday. Is that correct? Is there a timeline?
Yeah, Monday, I believe, or it's just sometime before Tuesday. Sometimes they
Okay.
wait till the very last moment.
And they
And
probably won't announce it
right.
early.
Right. No, they don't want to give the Mariners any chance to set their lineup, just kind of adjust their roster to what the Astros do. But I would guess that the Mariners would probably be sticking with the same thing. But if you look at Lance McCullers over his career versus the Mariners, he's 10-3 with a 2.80 ERA, with 120 strikeouts and 103 innings pitched, and started 18 times against them. So
Hmm.
these guys, they're very familiar with each other, these two teams. And
Yeah.
Justin Verlander, yes, he did get lit up for 6 runs in a game this year against the Mariners, but overall, he's been pretty good against them in his career. So I think that. Verlander actually made 6 regular season starts against Seattle this year. The Mariners mustered 11 earned runs, struck 6 runs in the 42 and 1/3 innings pitched he did this year. And he had one of his worst starts of the season on May 27th when they got 10 hits, 6 earned runs in 6 innings. So I'm going to go with the fact that maybe that was just a bad day and assume that Justin Verlander will be fine. And he's throwing better than I think he has all season.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think there's some definite things to be excited about with the Astros pitching staff, with the bullpen, with the starters, with the back end, with Ryan Stanek, with Presley. I mean, with Montero, with Neris. I mean, the list goes on. And playoff Matan, is he going to show up? Is Eric's favorite pitcher, playoff Matan, going to arrive? He is definitely going to be looked at with the microscope from Astros fans, because he has been shaky at best lately. But Eric, I want to talk to you about the 2 guys that I think will make this offense go outside of Yordan Alvarez. And I think Alex Bregman, okay, if you look at Alex Bregman's postseason stats, his best postseason was 2018. where he hit 292, had an on-base percentage of 553 and an OPS of 1178. You know, that was the fame year where Jerry West said that Altuve's home run wasn't a home run. That kind of turned the series, and then we know what happened when Boston went on to win that year. But that was by far his best year. And then he hit 234 in 2019 with an OPS of 835. But the last two postseasons, he's regressed, and he only had a 604 OPS. Now, we know last year is kind of an outlier because he did have a broken hand, or he had some sort of fracture. He had basically a hand injury he was dealing with. Eric, if we get 2018 Alex Bregman postseason, I think that's key. And I'm looking at Altuve's stats. The only time he really hit terrible was his rookie year. And then last year, I think the team and everybody kind of followed suit. You know, even though Altuve only hit 209 last year, he hit 5 home runs. Remember, we talked about him being 6 home runs away from tying the all-time postseason record. In a bad year, he hit 5 home runs. He's hit 5 home runs in 1, 2, 3 postseasons. 2017, he hit 7. So he's had an OPS over 1,000 twice, once in 2020 and once in 2017. Altuve and Bregman, if they get going, that helps Pena. Pena's got to hit. I think he's an X factor. But you know, right, Eric, who I think might be the X factor, and I'm gonna blow your socks off with this. Do you know the one person in this clubhouse who I think may be the X factor, and it has to do with the baseball gods?
What? Who?
Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker is the X factor because the baseball gods shine light on those who deserve it. And Dusty Baker, of all people, deserves a World Series title. And I really think that Dusty Baker is going to be the X factor in this postseason, Eric, because the baseball gods are real and they like to shine on those who deserve to be shown off. And Dusty Baker deserves to be shown off. This guy's grinning from ear to ear. He's having a blast. Those players love him in that clubhouse. And no matter what moves he makes or things we disagree with, he's gotten this team to where they are. And they've been consistent winners. I'm just saying, there are things like that you got to look for in the playoffs, because it's the little things like that I think really help in the long run. Now, I know people are going to think that's crazy. That's fine. That's my opinion. And there's something about fate, and there's something about people that are supposed to do things. And I know Seattle's got all this stuff on their side, but we got Dusty Baker, who's never actually won a World Series. So I guess I'm supposed to go monologue here. Go ahead, Eric.
That was my cue. Stop. No, just kidding. So I looked up Framber Valdez at Safeco Field. He's 4-0 with a 1.64 ERA. He has 23 strikeouts and 22 innings. And then if you look at Lance McCullers over his career, he is 4-3 with 2.66 ERA with 62 strikeouts and 50 2/3 innings pitched. So honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you do. I mean, either one of them is going to be kind of a good option. But I just think that Framber Valdez, with his success versus the Mariners, kind of, if you want him to go game 1, then potential game 5, I think that would be the best bet.
Yeah, I just think at the end of the day, what are the Astros hitters going to do against the pitching, against the key pitching? Can we get to that bullpen? Can we get to Munoz if he's on the mound? I mean, he's not unhittable, but I think if you can get to their bullpen, I think that you can get to him. They're hitting, Eric, the Cal Riley they call Big Dumper. We have got to, that's what they call him. Go look at the Seattle signs, Big Dumper. And I was like, does he, anyways, I don't know. I don't know if that's a reference to his bowel movements, but he can hit the ball a ton. And look, here's the thing. It's all about to go down here in Houston. And I'm not talking about the Houston Texans, Eric. I'm not talking about the Houston Rockets. I'm talking about the Houston Astros. And if our people that are listening really want to know where to go, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, they need to go to betonline.net. It's the number one source for all your football betting needs. And then for this season, even postseason baseball, player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis for every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf, head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right. So what we learned from this series versus the Mariners and the Blue Jays is that anything can happen in the playoffs. And I think what we've seen to this point, especially with the Guardians and the Rays, is that pitching tends to win. Like the Guardians, they scored 3 runs in the series, and they won the series.
Yeah.
It's, yes, we can complain about not scoring enough runs, but at the end of the day, I think it's probably going to rely on pitching. The team that pitches the best is probably going to win the most games. And I think with looking at how the Mariners bullpen kind of fell apart today, I think that's a plus for the Astros. I think that, yes, they have some good young pitchers, but I think at the same time, they've probably pitched more this year than they've ever had in their careers. And you're putting them in big moments, and you're putting this team in a big moment. So yes, they showed some gumption today, and they just showed some balls to come back and from that big deficit and score all those runs. And so props to the Mariners. Come to Houston. Let's play some great baseball. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing it from Seattle Mariner fans all week because they're very relentless. So, but
well, look, here's the thing. I'm not gonna predict anything. Okay, I know people on here. Please don't predict anything. Please don't predict. Here's the deal. I am going to tell you that the Astros know exactly what is at hand. They have the most experience. They have confidence. They're not worried about facing the Mariners. But what they know is that if each individual player does what they're supposed to do, that this game will more than likely go their way. And if when things don't go their way, who's going to panic? The fan base. Who's not going to panic? The Astros. That's why they're the pros and we're the bros. I mean, that's why we don't play. That's why they do. And so I am excited about this series. I think it's going to be a fun series. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series. I don't know if it's going to be 3, 4, or 5 games. But what I do know is that the team that comes out at the end of this is the absolute favorite to win the American League, because I think either one of these teams can take on the top of the bracket, whether it's the Stankies, or the Guardians. So I'm not going to predict. I know who I have the most confidence in. And dude, I'm pumped. So here's my question I was going to ask you earlier. Everybody says, well, the Astros have 19 games against the Mariners. Does that give them an advantage? Well, my thing is, the Mariners have played the Astros for 19 games. So does either side really have an advantage? You know what I'm saying? Isn't it kind of equal? Or
well, I'm trying to get back to that screen, but if you, in a way, it could be advantage. Either way you look at it, both teams have seen each other the equal amount of time. So the Astros are 12-7 against them. They've outscored them 73-65. So there's been some close games. There've been some blowout games, but I think that if you look at what the Astros have done in their history versus the Mariners, it's not even close. And I'm trying to find that stat, but the Astros won 12 of 19 games in the regular season with a +8 run differential. Mitch Haniger only played in one of those games, so he can be the X factor because he's been kind of their MVP in the past. But the Astros are 71-34 against Seattle since the start of 2017, including 39-17 at Minute Park. So they've dominated the Mariners for a while now. They've dominated. I remember the old days. I think that some of the I know Lance Berkman always did well when they played the Reds, but it just seems like the Astros just play well when they play the Mariners. And so I just think that, yeah, it's going to be a close series. I don't think it's going to be a sweep or anything, but I think it's going to go 5 games. But I think the Astros definitely have the edge in this series.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the edge on paper, but it's like Bregman, it's like McCullers, it's like all the guys in the clubhouse said. You still got to show up and play,
Right.
and you have to respect your opponent. Um, David's convinced that Luis Castillo is going to go in game one. He's not going to go in game one. I find that hard to believe. Logan Gilbert has been excellent. Why not give that kid a shot and then not have to have Luis Castillo on short rest? I think Castillo on short rest, you have more opportunity for it to backfire in game one for Seattle than you do if he pitches in game two. So hey, if that's the case, you know what? Go ahead and pitch Castillo game one. Let's do that. Let's not tell the Mariners how to run the team. But I have a question, Eric. Do you think that we are going to see any hit batsmen?
Probably Scott Service. I
So
mean,
over
he's
under
an old
three hits back.
yeah, he's an old school manager. He's like he does the discipline on field, and he's never going to come out and say that, but we've seen that. And when Teoscar Hernandez hits 2 home runs and all of a sudden gets hit the next batter, and then they score all these runs, then you get pissed off, and then you hit Whit Merrifield in the head. That just shows. I mean, yeah, maybe that wasn't intentional, but these are big league relievers. You know when you're trying to throw it at somebody. Maybe it was just a warning, like to back him off the plate or something. But throwing him at the head, that's something. And for Merrifield to kind of walk it off and be like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." Most people will be like, "No, dude." But
Well,
to their credit, there's no bench clearing brawls or anything like that.
Well, he flipped his bat like he wanted to do something, and he was saying something as he was walking off the field, and you could tell he was really upset there in the dugout. And I love the announcers were talking about bean balls, and they're like, the only time it's a bean ball is when you get hit in the head. When you get hit, from the head down, it's called getting plunked or just getting hit. And so they were having this semantic argument. My shock was the lack of reaction from the umpire. Not that I wanted the umpire to throw him out, but it was almost like nothing happened. And that's really weird because I've seen a lot of umpires like immediately they're like pointing to that dugout. You have a warning. You have what I'm saying? Like they're emphatic. They're trying to take control. And in a key playoff game, it was almost like they didn't even care. I thought that was a little weird. And talking about umpires, Eric, we've got a crew of umpires that we're not familiar with. There's no
Right.
CB Buckner. There's no other guys. There's no Angel Hernandez. There's no one that everyone's going to be like, yeah, we lost that inning because of this guy, or So we got a bunch of new guys. I don't know if that's good or bad, but the Astros can't put themselves in a situation where it depends on an umpire's call or no call. You have to put enough runs on the board to where an umpire missed call, or even today in the Blue Jays game, one of those batters should have been on base in the bottom of the 8th inning. Alejandro Kirk, when I think he grounded out or struck out, he should have actually walked that at bat. That could have changed everything. The strikeout, one of the strikeouts that they called from their closer was like literally 6 inches off the plate, So you can't put yourself in that situation. If you get an 8-1 lead, you can't give it back to him. I'm walking Cal Riley. I'm kind of pitching around Brian Reynolds. He seems to be hitting the ball even in pinch hitting situations. You've got to know your opponent. I think our relief pitchers are up for the job. I think our starters are up to the job. And I think our closing guys are up to the job.
All right. So the Astros had 35 players at today's workout. 28 players can make the roster. Some of the extra players were Brandon Bielak, Yainer Diaz, Corey Lee, Seth Martinez, JJ Madjevic, Parker Muzinski, and Blake Taylor. And so Seth Martinez would have made some sense if the Astros played the Blue Jays, but now they're playing the Mariners. So I don't know what's going to happen. So I said the series could go 5. That doesn't mean I think it will go 5. I think it's going to go 4. I think the Mariners will get one game at home, and then the Astros will come back and get game 4. Or no, not game 4, but I think the Astros would get I think the
You
Astros
think the
will win.
Astros will win the first two?
Right.
That you think Seattle win Game 3, and then the
Yeah.
Astros win Game 4 is
Right.
what you're
That's what I
saying?
meant to say. Because think about it, they're going to be going to atmosphere where they haven't won, they haven't been in the playoffs for 21 years or something. So they're going to be pumped up for that game. The crowd's going to be in it and everything. So they're probably going to get one game at Seattle, and that's probably going to be that first game. Now, it's all up to the Astros to do what they've been doing for the past 5 years. Take note, they've never been they've always been 2-0 after 2 games in the ALDS for the past 5 years. So
I didn't think about that. That is great. Look at Eric pulling up the fact sheet. That is awesome. That's good to know, and I think it sets up for a very favorable event where the Astros could, have 2 wins. Now listen, I know I'm going to be there game 1 and 2. Game 3, we'll let you know whenever the schedule comes out. We're going to be doing a live pregame podcast from Hooters and Webster, Hooters NASA. We'll let y'all know the time. Hopefully it's not too early. Someone joked at the beginning, Eric, the first comment was MLB hates us. They're going to make us start at 6 a.m. It's going to be like an F1 race in Singapore right here. Here it is. MLB hates the Astros. Probably have a 6 a.m. time, so no one can watch. Yeah, they'll probably be like, oh, and it's been relocated to Milwaukee or something. Like the MLB always seems to be out to get us. We will get a day game. We will get an early game. That's okay. The Astros are used to this. We have the most experienced lineup in all of Major League Baseball. And that, I think, is something you can't replace. That's an intangible that you can't plan for.
yeah, and I'm excited about the series. I'm going to game 1, but I think it was either G-Man Choi or Jose Ramirez in today's game. I was watching the Guardians and Rays game, and one of them, the announcers were like, yeah, this guy through a translator was asked about the early start time, and he said, I'll keep my comments to myself, but it's not right or something like that. And it just it's crazy how MLB just designates, okay, this time you're in this tier, you're in nobody's going to watch you play tier, so let's go ahead and put you as an early game. But I bet you that was one of the most watched game because it went extra innings. It was one of the longest games in playoff history, but maybe not longest, but it was one of them. But
well, it was. They say it was the longest game in postseason history without a run being scored.
Oh, okay.
So without a run being scored until the 15th inning, Albert asked us, what are the Astros numbers against Logan Gilbert? And in 2022, he is 2-1 versus the Astros with the ERA of 2.52, 22 strikeouts and 4 appearances. 4 hits, no runs, first game, 7 hits, 3 runs, third game. He gave up 2 runs. He gave up 7 runs total, 3, 2, and 2. So the Astros did defeat him on July 23rd, his most recent outing. He was a no decision, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 home run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. So Logan Gilbert's had his fair share of success. And so that is, that's fine. We just got to bring our A game.
Yeah. And the Flays Studios mentions that we should not discount the Yankees. I don't think anybody's discounting Yankees. I think
No, I'm not discounting the Yankees, Eric, but I'm giving the Guardians a lot of credit saying they're going to give them a run for their money. Like, they're not just like, oh, the Yankees are for sure going to beat them.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's whoever comes out of the American League is going to give the National League a run for their money. But I really thought the Mets would put up a little bit bigger fight. I mean, Max Scherzer gave up all those runs, and it was just you're paying him all this money for that. And I don't know. That was just crazy that
he went full Garrett Cole. Now, okay, I can't find out if it's true. There was a tweet. I don't know if it was true. Did you see it? Did you see the
about
quote?
him blaming Dave Roberts?
I was like, this is
I don't know if it's
true,
true.
right?
I couldn't find
I
any.
asked, and I couldn't find it, but I'm like, there's no way Max Scherzer said that. It was so ridiculous. My first thought was like, that overpaid jerk. I was like, wait, that's not something he said. That's not real. I hate fake. I hate when people
Nobody's
fake tweet
gonna
that stuff.
mean, if he did, shame on him. You're not going to go, oh yeah,
He's not.
Dusty, Garrett Cole's not going to, not Garrett Cole, but Zach Greinke's not going to come back. Well, I had off season last year because Dusty Baker didn't start me as much. He didn't think I was good, and so now I'm not starting that much. You're not going to blame your manager from last year. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I don't
Now,
think that's going to happen.
Now, I don't know if you noticed, but Mr. Met had the one brown eye and one blue eye, like Max Scherzer for his start last night. I thought that was pretty cool.
Hmm.
So that was neat. But the Mets were my guys to come out of the NL, and so they meant it. So here's the thing: if San Diego makes it out of the wild card, are they one of the teams that sneaks up because nobody expects them to do anything? Because
You and Matt Thomas laughed at me the other day when I mentioned the Padres, and
Well, because look at what they've done, and they don't have their leader Fernando Tatis Jr. I know they have Soto, I know they have Bell, but those guys haven't been doing jack squat. Now Josh
right.
Bell hit a home run that's what helped them win Game 1. But man, the playoffs are fun, and it doesn't matter if you're a fan of the team that you're watching or teams that you're watching. It's I freaking love playoff baseball. And dude, right now it's like sports mecca. Like NHL preseason, NBA preseason, NFL. You know what I'm saying? F1's going on. I mean everything. So check us out this week. We've got some special guests that we're trying to line up, that we're working on, and hopefully give you guys some really good content.
And we should know start times maybe tomorrow once all the different games are wrapped up. I thought that, my thought is if the Mets get eliminated tonight, all of a sudden MLB communications would come out. Okay, here are the start times because they would want the Mets in the prime time or the kind of prime time
Right?
with the Yankees. So, but that's all we got. The Mariners coming to Houston. They're going to play 3 out of 5 games in Houston. They're going to go play 2 games in Seattle. Those Mariners fans are going to be loud. So Astros fans, when you go to Minute Maid Park, you got to get there early, be loud, be proud, and let's support this team because we want this team to go all the way. We want to do it for Dusty. We want to do it for Justin Verlander. We want to do it for this whole team. And Jeremy Pena, a lot of people have been talking about Jeremy Pena. He said a lot of good things about this. We'll talk about that on the next podcast. But a lot of players said a lot of great things at the city rally. That's all we got. And Ghost Rose, we'll see you tomorrow night. My name is Eric Huysman. He's Brett Chancey. We are the Locked On Astros podcast. Ghost Rose.
Chaz, 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 Chaz.